Okay, welcome to this very impromptu, let me see if I pull up a better image, there we go, very impromptu stream I decided to do, just for funsies, just for me, really. And besides, it's 2022, everything is content, as we are wont to say. Today, which is the 21st, if I'm not lying to everyone, and myself, I'm not, was the first official D&D Direct, first live announcement for the Dungeons & Dragons brand, which, of course, this show, Level 1 Adventuring, is all about. If you're not familiar with this stream, if you've somehow, this is the first bit of content you've ever stumbled across from us, which would be very surprising. And I'm just checking my audio to make sure that I'm actually... Yes, okay, yes, I'm actually being recorded when I talk. That's great. This is all about Dungeons & Dragons. We play a weekly live streamed campaign, homebrew for the most part, 5th edition with my friends and I, 6 of my friends and I, and we also do Dungeon Master talks about game design and game philosophy on Mondays, mostly me with some friends attached, and in the future, fingers crossed, hopefully some Baldur's Gate 3 when that drops. We'll see how that goes. And who knows, with this announcement here, maybe there'll be some more content for me to glom on and absorb into the Level 1 Adventuring brand. But yeah, for those of you who are kind of like newish or newer to the hobby, also I have a bunch of snacks, so like forgive me. I just got off of work and you know, I'm gonna need to eat these carrot sticks and peanut butter to keep myself motivated. For those of you who are new to the hobby, obviously D&D has been around for a very, 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 very long time. But within the past couple of years, especially with the advent of 5th edition and so many avenues for streaming and broadcasting the hobby to a much wider audience than it ever has before, popularity has just skyrocketed. And you know, events like this, live, you know, direct announcements from the company about movements and updates within the hobby and the industry. I mean, something like akin to, I don't know, like a games convention, like a video game convention, at least I should say a stage show, right? Not really commonplace. So it's very exciting that this is sort of their first foray into it. I've tried to remain spoiler-free. For those of you who are not aware, this actually live-streamed earlier in the day, but I was working, so I could not hop on in the moment and, you know, watch it live, unfortunately, and share in the hype. But I can share the hype after the fact and watch through some of these announcements. So I've tried to remain as spoiler-free as I could to keep everything sort of genuine, and hopefully if anybody else... Oh, we see we have one person joining. Hey, what's up, friend? Welcome to Level 1 Adventuring. We're just going to watch the new live announcement together, as I was just talking about. So yeah, try to keep the reactions fresh, and if... what's the word? If a discussion starts about all the fun and exciting things that hopefully they are going to announce for us, then great. You know, now that it's not live, I can like pause it and we can like talk more specifically. Oh, what's up, Moch? How you feeling? 100%. I just realized that like I didn't have like my little accessories on, and that makes me feel very naked. So I'm gonna just, you know, dress myself in that regard real quick. But yeah, you know, 2022, everything is content. We're going to watch this live announcement. We are going to see what new things Wizards of the Coast has cooked up for us. Hopefully some, I'm imagining it's going to be some new books. I'm hoping, yeah, what are like some hopes and wants? Obviously, I love new books. I love new actual D&D 5th edition content. That helps expand our games and our, I just gave you some titty bitties. I don't know what that means, but thank you. I thumbs up. Oh, I see now. I was just using 100 bits. Thank you. Yeah, for those of you who are also not aware, because this is new to me, we just hit affiliate, our last stream. So this is our, well, I guess first official affiliate stream, although it's not like the exciting campaign stuff. But it is our first foray into the affiliate life. So that's very exciting. And so thank you, Mochi. I appreciate that. My heart goes out to you for supporting the channel. Mochi's been like hanging out with us since day one, so that's pretty tight. So yeah, well, hopes and dreams. I hope we get some new source books. I always love character options, class options. I love the direction they've been going with recent class and character design, where it's way more sort of open form, if you will. Like, you know, the ancestries and the races don't have ability score bonuses that are so hard coded to specific stats, which gives you the freedom to create different builds. I really like the direction that a lot of the Strixhaven classes, subclasses went, in that they were, or at least in the playtest, I don't know if I've actually seen if this applies to the full book yet, where a certain subclass can apply to multiple classes to kind of give you a lot of wiggle room and freedom. What affiliate you just got? With affiliate, you get bits, and maybe emojis. Yes, I think I saw a, what do you call it? I saw a message that we did have the ability to have emojis, but I haven't like set any of that up. So I'm sure that it is a thing, or it will be at some point in the future. But right now, maybe not. But we'll see. We also had a couple of graphic artists reach out to us and ask if we needed content made for the channel. So probably a good opportunity to sort of tap them on the shoulder and be like, hey, can you make some baller emojis? So hope we get some new class stuff. I hope we also get some interesting alternative rules. I'm really a big fan of like rule sets and modifications, like sort of hack the game or change the game to tweak monsters or to tweak spells or magical effects like the environment. You know, there's a lot in the core rules that is left very open to interpretation from DM to DM. Things like how to handle overland travel, or how to handle long form like skill challenges, or how to I mean, there's a lot now to think about it. How to handle sort of a more realistic encumbrance, and without making it too rules heavy. That's sort of like the hard line that D&D runs, is sort of like how can we make this more simulationist, and, you know, incur penalties or risks and rewards for, like, you know, carrying all these objects or needing to survive in this harsh fantasy environment, but without making it so noodly that the math is like unfortunate. And I think there's a lot of really great third-party creators who have begun to solve this problem. Sly Flourish and the Lazy DM have some great alternative systems for travel. Giphy Glyph has great systems for monster creation and tweaking, and has great systems for inventory management, and even doing things like adding environmental stressors, almost like Darkest Dungeon, where, you know, depending on how frightening or harsh the environment is, or the dungeon is, you suffer like psychological effects and things like that. Really cool stuff that exists out there in the third-party publishing world that I would love to see trickle into the main sort of rules canon. One thing that I really love, like, I love systems, and this is what I would hope in these books. I love systems that obviously exist within the canon of the books that they're in, but can easily be grabbed and transplanted to other places. A great example is the Mythic Odyssey of Theros book, which is, I think, a really wonderful book that describes how to play within the setting of Theros, which is very much styled after Greco-Roman mythology and, like, you know, its own sort of twist. But they have great systems for piety towards gods that is agnostic of, like, playing a class like a cleric or a paladin, which is usually sworn to a god, and how that can, like, affect your character and give them benefits. Or something that I know a lot of DMs have been doing for a long time, which is you know, granting something like a feat or another special ability at level 1 to sort of help that hero feel unique. You know, sometimes there's, in 5th edition, one criticism you hear a lot of people levy is that there is kind of a less amount of more specific customization options for character builds, especially like early on that sort of trickle on long term. This aside from picking like your background and your subclass and your heritage, beyond that, every character kind of plays the same. And so adding little systems or a little templates that can help make the character feel a little bit more unique in the world is always well appreciated. And Mythic Odyssey of Theros added the idea of what were they called, the heroic gifts, I believe it was, where, because we're playing in like a Greco-Roman sort of style where all the heroes are larger than life, even level 1 heroes are granted sort of like a supernatural ability early on in their career. And that is something that a lot of DMs like myself, in level 1, the actual campaign we're playing, I've granted all the characters a feat at level 1, and I have plans on sort of having those abilities expand as they grow to sort of make them feel more unique. But it was sort of a way for the game designers to say, yeah, this thing that people have already been doing for a while, we're like actually adding it in this book. And it allowed the setting, like you can so you can pick that up out of the setting and drop it anywhere else and make it work for you. Same thing with mythic monsters that appeared in Legend Legacy of, what am I calling it? Mythic Odyssey of Theros? Yeah. Mythic monsters, which sort of turned heads around on the concept of the boss monster, and really allowed you to design more dire threats for your heroes that last longer, which is always sort of a gripe that I hear from DMs a lot, especially with, like, not to say a poorly designed boss, because, like, sometimes it's real. I can say this as a tenured dungeon master. Sometimes you'll design a boss or a big monster that feels like it's going to be totally badass and, like, wipe the floor with your friends. And, because they have, like, that one specific ability or that combination of abilities, they just manage to, like, steamroll the entire encounter and make your epic boss feel just like chowder, and that never feels great. So systems like the mythic monsters in Mythic Odyssey of Theros allows the creatures to be more deadly, to last longer by having extra health pools and more abilities that expand once they sort of like get brought down to like low health and things like that. So systems like that you can steal right from that book and drop it into any other game that you're playing and really expand your options. So I'm hoping for more things like that. More settings would be great. They've done a lot with settings recently, but interestingly enough, we've seen a lot of settings borrowed from Magic the Gathering. And for those of you who may not know, Wizards of the Coast owns both D&D and Magic the Gathering. And for a long time, never would the two touch. We don't cross the streams. D&D was D&D, Magic was Magic. But within the past couple of years, they've really loosened the grip on that, and we've had campaign books, Mythic Odyssey of Theros being one, and Strixhaven, which was previously mentioned. Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, I believe, is also from the Ravnica block of Magic books, get brought into D&D rules, and alternatively, D&D has now made its way into its own themed deck of cards. Never touch the tips. Exactly, far too dangerous. D&D has finally made its way into a block of cards for Magic, so there's sort of like some cross-pollination now, and so a lot of fans I've been very grateful because those worlds are very interesting and cool, and once again, they give me cool abilities and themes to steal from to implant in other games, but a lot of people are obviously, there's been years and years and years of alternative D&D settings that have not seen the 5th edition conversion yet, that everyone's waiting and waiting for. So that would be great to see, to hear. I would love to see, because I'm waiting on Baldur's Gate 3, I'd love to see some more Baldur's Gate 3 news. And if there's anything else, new books, new class features, customization options, monster options, I think that's about it. I think I'd be happy with that. And if anything else happens, I'll be pleasantly surprised. I'm going to open up this peanut butter. Also, I'm going to be playing probably with the audio levels because I don't know how loud the YouTube is going to be versus my voice. So please yell at me if it doesn't work out the way that we all want it to. But yeah, I think probably get started. I take a big bite of celery and peanut butter. The perfect two things to mix. Before I talk at a screen for at least, what's this, half an hour? Chunky, you're playing? How dare you even ask? Chunky, of course. Yeah. chunky for life. I think I'm just gonna hit play, and I'm just gonna like let it ride. And if there's a moment that I really want to pause for, I'll do that, and we can like talk it over and hash it out. But otherwise, I'm just interested to see what happens here. So let's see what's up. Full screen it. Okay, I already know what this is. But I do love the. Is this set to the Wellerman? I think it is. Wow. Okay. They know what they're doing with this. Yeah, okay, this is exciting right off the bat. Wow. I still can't. Okay, so I'm gonna pause it right there. I still can't get over that was just that like sea shanty was set to Wellerman. I guess it's so meme worthy that it totally makes sense. All right, so right off the bat, we are graced with Spelljammer. This has been a huge request from the D&D fans for a long time. This is one of the settings that I talked about, which have been like everybody's been wondering where it is. The new setting book. So Spelljammer, as you can probably see from the promotional materials, is kind of space fantasy. They add sci-fi elements, so you can actually sort of surf the astral sea, which is like space, and travel the multiverse and go to different planets and, you know, meet different aliens. Although I guess like I don't know if they're like called aliens in this like fantasy realm. I know of Spelljammer. I've never played a game in Spelljammer, so I've not like read the rules very thoroughly, but I do know that like space fantasy is sort of a sorely missing component to a lot of D&D players right now. I think if you read the actual player's handbook, there is like a blip of a section in the back where it talks about different kind of non-standard fantasy weapons, and they like list stats for laser guns. But that's like it. And in truth be told, there are already third-party companies which are creating space fantasy content. I was actually thinking about maybe running a space fantasy game in the future, and I was like downloading all of these PDFs from independent publishers and kind of splicing together a 5th edition rule set that would be kind of like a space fantasy setting. But if Spelljammer's going to be here, that'll take a lot of the work out for me and a lot of other DMs who want to get involved in this. And also, I imagine with Spelljammer, you're once again going to get a lot of rules and systems that you can just steal and place in anything else. Like, I don't think you specifically... Yes, space fantasy is the best. I don't think specifically you need to be playing like Spelljammer to like want a pirate ship that can fly through like between dimensions. Like, that could easily exist in any D&D game, depending on like your setting and everything. But now probably Spelljammer, you'll have rules for it, which means you don't have to make that yourself, which will be really great. I would like to see, I mean, maybe they'll keep talking about it. I don't know if this is like the full direct. This might just be, the announcement showcase, which is fine. I don't know if I need to hear like everybody talk, except me, right? But there was already like a bunch of naval battle systems that were made for, oh man, what was that adventure? Ghosts of Saltmarsh, which took place, it was like a bunch of loosely connected seafaring adventures a couple of years ago, or maybe like a year ago at this point, where it gave you rules for ships and ship modifications and enchantments and how to conduct naval combat. So I imagine this will probably expand upon those rules a great deal. Hopefully simplify them too. I love having more rules, but I really appreciate when they are easy to understand and execute. And Ghost of Salt Marsh, I think if I spent more time with them, they'd become more second nature, but definitely like reading them just in a vacuum, I was like, this might be a little bit too much for your average play group. Depending on how invested they were in like the seafaring setting, you'd really have to get like them on board, I think. But you know, space pirates or space sailors probably is a much easier buy-in, and so hopefully that means those same systems, I hope they are sort of applicable and cross-compatible, and like all the same upgrades or enchantments that you could do in Saltmarsh are applicable in Spelljammer. I already saw a bunch of what do you call them, like other playable heritages. I saw what I think they're called the GIF or the Griff, I always forget, but they're like hippopotamus people. Yeah, there's one right there. They're also they have a monster stat block in one of the current D&D monster books with rules on their firearms. Are like famously, in, at least right now in the D&D canon, one of like the only monsters I think that has like a stat block for like a straight up gun, which is cool. And then also up here, this character has been featured a couple times in these images. Seems to be like some sort of like simian humanoid with these like the monkey feet going on. Which once again, I'm not like super well versed in the lore of Spelljammer. Ninja Turtles game, yeah, absolutely. There's like a lot. For some reason, Spelljammer has like a lot of like, instead of straight up like aliens, there's like, oh, they're just animals that stand up on 2 feet, which is fine. But yeah, I mean I'm not super familiar with the Spelljammer lore, but always happy to see a new playable race. Obviously, like a simian humanoid plays to like a lot of great tropes, and a lot of great like character archetypes could fit under that, which is great. I'm trying to see if I just saw any other like interesting call outs. Yeah, we got like the flying spaceship, super cool. Oh, it looks like they are going to be talking. Okay. Gotta capture the furry crowd. Yeah, I mean they're already doing a pretty good job with like cat people and bird people. Don't think there's a dog person yet. But hey, you know what? What's the phrase? Don't yuck anyone's young. Anybody can, live your life, have fun. You want to be a monkey person? You do that. I believe in you. I believe in your joy. Live your joy. But yeah, a very evocative sort of little image we got there. So great. We love to see new settings. Spelljammer is going to give us a lot of fun things to work with. Yeah, I could definitely see myself running a campaign in the Spelljammer universe in the near future. I still got to finish the campaign I'm currently running, but this could be a very fun setting. Just like giant sea monsters, but they're just like floating around in space, hunting the party, space pirates. If anyone's ever played... Oh man, I'm like already getting ideas. If anyone's ever played Pillars of Eternity 2, which is like a very seafaring-based, a very naval-based adventure game, there's so many great inspirations that you can take in terms of like the complex politics of like discovering a new world and like what that means for like people who live there and people who are trying to like make a life there. You can easily take a lot of those themes and like that political intrigue into Spelljammer. Just like you find an unexplored quadrant of the astral sea of space, and it's like, oh, we need to like mark this territory as our own, and then you find out there are things already afoot there that could be like already a really neat sort of overall setting. So Spelljammer, super sweet, very excited. Thank you, Wizards, for giving fans something they've been asking for a very long time. And then and a Wellerman cover. And I will continue to watch. Very cool. Space whales, too.
Wow, what an incredible way to kick off our show today. I'm so stoked Spelljammer is coming out.
Which means I can finally say, Spelljammer confirmed. The time has come to welcome
These are our hosts.
to the first ever D&D Direct, a show packed with all the exciting, entertaining, and epic information you'll need to immerse yourself.
Star Trek does love Spaceballs, this is true.
2022 and beyond. I'm B. Dave Walters.
And I'm Anna Prosser, and we are truly
Turn this down a
honored to
little
be
bit.
your host today.
For the next 30 minutes, we are going to travel between worlds, from role-playing games to video games to entertainment and partner reveals. So gather around as we bring you the most exciting.
All right, new video games confirmed.
Announcements right now.
We have
Can
exclusive
definitely
content
steal that for
Perfect World,
the channel.
Pictures, and many more.
Paramount Pictures
How vast
movie. Okay,
the world
all
of
right.
Dungeons and Dragons is for all the ways that we players love to engage.
First, we're going to take you on a deeper dive into the Spelljammer universe with a look into Spelljammer Adventures in Space.
Cool, we're gonna talk about it. I just talked about it for like 20 minutes.
Whoa, I'm sucked in. Hi everybody, I'm Chris Perkins. I am the project lead on Spelljammer Adventures in Space.
We love Chris. We all know and love Chris.
Falcone. We're so excited to talk to you about Spelljammer. Deep Space meets Deep Sea. My favorite thing about Spelljammer, the thing that brought me to it in the first place, is that it combines all of the excitement of a nautical exploration. Instead of teleporting from A to B, we're gonna get in a ship and we're gonna take the really, really long way around.
Yeah, the scenic route, right? Where you get to see all the cool stuff that you can't see on the highway, like cities built on asteroids and
So hopefully, now that we're talking about taking the really, really long way around, hopefully we will now have systems in place, at least I'm hoping that's what they're alluding to, that really helps flesh out the journeys between locations. That's one thing I know that a lot of DMs have. They kind of have to make up a lot of it as they go along. I know I do, because the rules as written for a lot of the current books don't really give you a hard guideline in terms of like, oh, if the characters are traveling from like here to here, like what is the like percentage of running into trouble or something interesting, or you know, there. Once again, Sly Flourish, the Lazy DM, has a really great system about assigning characters like certain roles on the road, which I am totally stealing for the stream, and you might have seen me assign some of those roles last night, or the party, I should say, assigned themselves roles last night on stream. To help kind of guide the characters through what they're doing when traveling, and depending on their results on how they do it, their roles that might determine whether or not they face trouble, issues, etc. But once again, these are like all sort of things that DMs have had to make up themselves for the most part. The books will give you like random tables. They'll be like, here's something you could see on the road. Here's something you could find. A monster you could find while you're traveling. But they don't give you a lot of like systems of like, if X then Y, like if the characters do this, then this might happen, which is why a lot of DMs have had to make those rules themselves. So hopefully, if they're investing in Spelljammer and the idea of like the nautical space exploration style of things, we'll get like more cemented rules for roles on the ship. I know they've started doing that actually. I think they did that in Ghost of Salt Marsh, especially for the ship, like particular positions you could have on the boat. But hopefully more systems to help guide the characters through their voyages and what they might see and what might trigger those events to happen, so it's not just entirely up to like the DM's whim. I'm a person who I obviously like to improv and freestyle a lot. You'll see that in my games, but I also have systems in place that help guide my hand. So like for example, like I will for skill challenges, right? I'm excited to see the characters that people create. Yes, exactly. There's going to be, space warlocks and, like, interdimensional knights. I'm loving all of it. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just checking this here. Okay, cool. I love to have the ability to have a framework that gives me sort of guidelines and rules so that I know when to trigger things for the improv to happen. If it's all improv, then it kind of gets like wobbly and you don't really know when to make the cool events happen, or like you think you're drawing the gun too quick or whatever. But if you have systems in place that kind of guide your hand, then it also makes the things that you're making up or the events that transpire feel a little bit more earned, if you will. Like, oh, because like I told myself that if X then Y happens, and then Y happened, great, now I can like go full tilt on it, where if like you're kind of unsure, you might not fully buy into like that moment that you're trying to create for yourself. So that's all to say, I hope we have a lot of great new systems in place for naval and space travel, and sort of like what the characters can do and see, and how those things may happen, to sort of help guide the DM's hand a bit in those nebulous journeys, especially if a large part of the campaign is just going to be getting from point A to point B. I think those systems need to be really fleshed out. You're going to need to make a celery with a mustache emoji for the... wait, do you mean like make a mustache with celery? Or like have a celery with a mustache? I feel like that could go either way. Both I think are great. I don't really want to put my hand in the peanut butter to make a peanut butter mustache on this piece of celery. That may be a little bit more than I am bargaining for right now, but like I'm totally happy to do celery mustache. I think that's easy enough. Yeah, you just have to make this a tough choice. All right, so let's keep talking about Spelljammer, or like listen to people talk about Spelljammer. That's great.
Monster layers carved out of asteroids and dead gods floating in the ether. These are...
We love dead gods. Bring them in.
Will get to experience on board the deck of the ship. Spelljammer is a campaign setting in a slipcase with 3 books, a DM screen,
what?
And a poster map.
Double-sided.
There's 3 64-page hardcover books.
3 books dedicated to one campaign setting. Okay, thank you for telling me that. I will pump it back up. I didn't know if it was too loud. I'll pump back up. I'm glad they have subtitles. You can tell me if it gets low again. Crazy. 3 books for one campaign setting is unheard of. I mean, like, famously, when you want to play D&D, you need just, like, base D&D, like, no campaign setting. You're, like, making it all up yourself. You need 3 books alone just to do that. You need the Dungeon Master's Guide to teach you how to run the game. You need the Player's Handbook to teach you how to make a character and run the character. And you need the Monster Manual to know all the creatures that, will populate the world and that you might have to fight or have to design as a DM. And that's just, like, not even a setting. That's just, like, the basic way to run D&D and construct D&D is 3 books. And all the campaign settings that have existed so far for 5th edition, like we talked about, Ravnica, Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, Mythic Odyssey of Theros, Strixhaven, those are all 1 book. So to get 3 books for 1 setting, that is so much content. That's crazy. All right, I'm going to press play again, so we'll check those audio levels. Oh, and instead I just hit space nowhere.
The first book is called The Astral Adventurer's Guide, and it's aimed at players and DMs, because not only does it have everything the DM needs to know to run campaigns and adventures set in wild space, but it also has options for players in it, including 6 new playable race options.
Mixed
the
book.
Astral Elves.
These are elves with starlight in their eyes. They've left the Feywild and they want to go be in space.
Autognomes, which are mechanical gnomes, built gnome tough.
What's the next one?
The Hadozi.
Oh, the Hadozi. Yeah, the flying monkey creatures, right?
Yes. And then we have the...
Okay, flying monkeys. Very cool. Robot gnomes. Did not see it coming. Not mad about it. There's going to be so many little, like, Tinker Toy gnome characters. That's fun. And also, like, can very easily, like, play the role of, like, droids, if you will, in, like, a Star Wars adjacent campaign. Very cool. Love that. I mean, Astral Elves are cool. Hodosies? Oh, I see. Sorry. The chat, like, made this, like, weird notification. I Astral Elves are like whatever. Like in D&D, there's pretty much a elf for. I got censored. Yeah, that was like the notification. It was like held for language, and I was like, oh my. Maybe we now have more stringent. What's the word? Automation, moderation, because we're affiliate. Fancy. I'll have to look into that. But Astral Elves are like whatever. There's like an elf for every type of situation. There's wood elves, there's sun elves, moon elves, dark elves, like so many elves. Which is like, you know, neither here nor there. But hey, maybe Astral Elves will be really cool. I can see I do like elves. I have played a lot of elf characters in the past, so perhaps an Astral Elf will have some sort of unique little, you know, flair. I hope it's not just like a sun elf or a moon elf that's like slightly altered. I feel like, which is technically just like a high elf, like they're almost interchangeable. So hopefully they're a bit more interesting than that. Yeah, Space Elves will probably be a really cool cosplay for sure for like a lot of people. So that's kind of like interesting, but not very exciting. Autognomes, awesome. Flying monkey people, awesome. I think they're just talking about the GIF here.
GIF.
GIF.
Agree to disagree, but sure.
Oh, funny.
GIF are a race of hippo-headed folk who don't know where they came from, not sure where they're going. They're looking for home in all the wrong places.
Sounds like me.
Plasmoids.
You get to play as a slime. I'm so
Yes.
excited.
You get to just be slime. Hell yeah. I don't even know what that entails. I don't know what that means. I don't know what powers you get, but you can just be slime. Once again, that is going to be so great for like different character concepts. Oh man. And everyone can play their favorite slime girl waifu now. So, I mean, the world is truly coming full circle.
Our first character race where you are an ooze. And then we've got the Thrykeen, which are insectile humanoids that have telepathy, so you can have silent conversations with your friends. And they have carapaces that can actually change color and hue to blend into their surroundings.
I love them.
Okay, very cool with the Thrykeen. I remember Thrykeen. I used to play 4th edition D&D years ago with my friends, and I remember first being introduced to the Thrykeen in the Dark Sun campaign setting, which is another campaign setting which a lot of people have been clamoring for a couple of years now. So I always assumed they were like inherent to that setting, but maybe they were at one point, but they're expanding outward because they are fitting. I mean, like bug people definitely make sense for like a spacefaring adventure. But wow, they are a very cool species. I remember reading a lot about them in 4th edition and thinking there was some really interesting storytelling opportunities there. You know, the sort of like hive mind mentality, being able to communicate psychically. I think they even have some of their own unique, how do you silently communicate? With your mind. Through the power of your mind. So, wow, that's cool. Thrykeen, definitely here for it. Very excited to see that be a part of the new options. And unexpected, so I'm digging it.
You gotta have the bug folk. The second book, which is called Boo's Astral Menagerie.
That'll be the monster
very
book.
famous Miniature giant space hamster.
For sure.
Is a bestiary of new monsters for the setting. For instance, there are space clowns.
There's also
Oh, no.
vampires, murder
Vampires.
Giant space hamsters, there are solar dragons and lunar dragons, all kinds of creatures. And the third and final book is an adventure. And it's called Light of Xerixin.
Okay, so that actually makes sense. Yeah, oh my god, the hamster. Yeah, the giant space hamster is like a pretty famous D&D monster that was actually made famous by a character modeled after Chris Perkins, I believe, named Minsk and Boo. That was like the duo. It was like a warrior and his hamster. His giant space hamster. So wow. Cool. Interesting though. I guess I should have saw that coming. That Spelljammer will have its own adventure book. I know, Space Clowns. That definitely has to be not only like an ICP nod, but also like a Pennywise nod. I can see someone making the entire big bad of their campaign just like Pennywise in D&D, just like evil, murderous, like space clown, which would be interesting. That campaign would be something to see. Could also maybe you could like maybe mix that in with what was the adventure that took place in Icewind Dale, and the main antagonist is Auril, like the shape-shifting like ice monster. I'd be like, they'd be kind of like mixing the thing, because they based that off the Thing, and there's definitely some Thingy moments in the Pennywise movie, so you just mix that all together, run wild with it. That'd be pretty cool. But no, that makes sense now. They have an adventure book. So they kind of have one book that is all DM and player stuff mixed together. That makes sense. And then you have the book that is like specifically space monsters, which I'm into. Obviously, you could have you could have added that to any monster book, to be honest. A lot of the current monster books, like for example, as we already talked about, the GIF are already in a monster book right now. So I mean, I guess you could have like spread the love through that and not made it its own whole book. But I mean, I'm not mad. They also promised like lunar dragons and solar dragons and other badass stuff. So I'm willing to shell out the money. But this is cool. Actually having, like, especially for a campaign setting, which is so foreign to a lot of DMs, like playing Dungeons and Dragons in space could be like a big leap for some people who are, just trying to like play regular D&D. They're trying to wrap their heads around that. And they're like, oh, let's add space on top of it. I could see how that would be hard to write for and design for. Adventure-wise, but giving you an adventure already out of the box, smart idea, cool idea. I'm excited to hear more about it. Let's see what it's about. Maybe they won't tell us spoilers, but it looks like there's this spooky person, armored person, petting a space dragon. So if that's some inkling as to what's happening.
It is an all-new D&D adventure set in wild space in the Astral Sea. And it's got how many episodes?
12 episodes, believe it or not.
And each one of those ends in a cliffhanger.
I know, you jerk.
I know, until you get to the, of course, conclusion where
Everything goes absolutely buck wild, and you'll have to see for yourself.
Spelljammer
All right.
Adventures in Space, coming in August 2020.
I'm into that. I would run that
Is
adventure.
right?
Yeah.
Chris, is there anything we can do in the meantime to get going?
Oh, wait, yes. In July, we are going to release a prequel adventure. All you need is a Wizards account. Sign up now and set sail for the stars.
I love Spelljammer, and I cannot wait to further explore the Astral Sea with these books. And here's something else that greatly enhances your Spelljammer expeditions. Our partner WizKids has created an entire collection of spacefaring figurines. Let's take a look at the exclusive preview now.
Product placement. Let's go.
There are worlds beyond worlds. Cold, hot, light, dark, watery, and earthen. They all share one basic need. A need for heroes.
A need for miniatures.
Attention Voyagers. At long
Okay.
last, the epic space fantasy returns.
I'm not mad about this soundtrack though.
Elevate your Spelljammer campaign with icons of the realm's miniatures from WizKids.
Yeah, I'd rather be a WizKid than a Toys R Us kid, I think.
With new playable races, NPCs, and otherworldly creatures from the depths of wild space, like Doughwar and Space Swine, giant space hamster, and the menacing Void Scaper.
Ooh.
Enhance your story.
I gotta say, like, as a person who, does voiceover work, this is just this would be a fun job. Like, I'm sure that person who they handed that script to, like, what are some of these things he just had to say? Like, plasmoid.
NPCs.
Let's see.
And otherworldly creatures from the depths of
Let's
wild
see what
space.
I want to hear some of these words.
Doughwar and Space Swine, giant space hamster.
Yeah, this guy has no idea what he's saying. Like, someone just handed him this script, and it was just sort of like, yeah, Doughwar and Space Hamster, and he's just like going for it. He's giving it his all, giving it up to God.
Menacing Void Scaper.
The Void Scaver. No idea what's happening. He's just getting paid, and he has to put on the voice and everything. Like, I love that. I love that for him. Good for him. Because, yeah, these are just fun words to say, get paid to say. It's just, Love D&D made up words. So good.
Enhance your storytelling experience with 2-in-1 combined figures. Now, you're ready to face any danger.
Wow. That's actually really cool. I'm going to say that's actually really cool. Because I can tell you as a person who used to play with a lot of minis and figurines growing up, how many times I'd like forcibly straddled like a little like knight or something on top of a monster to like make it seem like they were riding it, you know what I mean, to sell it to my friends, and mostly just to like play with like the miniature, right? But like that's actually really cool that they thought about the need to like be able to showcase a monster being like ridden and making the ability to like switch it out and add that on. That's really cool. I mean, you know, I'm sure... Actually, let me take a look at that. I mean, I'm sure that particular mini that they... Underground Mini Black Market. Yeah, no, believe me, there is such a thing. I'm sure, like, this guy... This looked like the antagonist on the front, but now not so much. Kind of looks like a different character. So that's actually... I was going to say, originally, perhaps maybe they only made certain monsters, you know, detachable... Because, like, in the storyline, maybe, you know, a particular antagonist or whatever, like, rode one of them into battle. But if this is just a regular sort of spacefaring person, and you can still unplug that thing and plug that on top, perhaps they're just designed for certain sizes of minis, like the miniature creatures versus large creature. And that's cool. That would be really cool to have that flexibility, to be able to put, like, whatever character that you felt, you know, represented your villain or your hero, straddling whichever monster, you know, they were introducing into the storyline. That's a pretty neat feature. It's very innovative. I can only imagine these things cost so much money. I remember collecting minis as a kid, and we used to buy them in bulk. Like, you bought them in, like, almost like when you bought trading cards as a kid. They were all random. You just opened up a package, and what you got was what you got. Some were rarer than others. For something like a space dragon that has a removable slot for you to, like, plug in your other minis, I'm sure that is going to be a pretty penny to buy on its own, but very cool. Very, very cool idea.
Well, almost any. Maximize your immersion with gargantuan models, or get tactical. Only you can vanquish the threat of destruction and prevent calamity. Welcome to Spelljammer. Collect all Icons of the Realm figures online or at your local game store this fall.
You can collect this devastating Dreadnought and all the other Spelljammer figures at your local game store this summer.
Next, we want to bring you the latest on Baldur's Gate 3. So, let's check...
Okay, Baldur's Gate 3, video game announcement. Very fun. Baldur's Gate 3 is something I've not... So it's not out yet. They might explain that as we're going on. It's currently in like a pre-release like alpha you can download. I actually downloaded it, and I'm planning on playing it. I'm actually planning on streaming it too on the channel certain nights, not when we're running the campaign, but since we're moving and like the internet needs to be stronger and like I need to like run a hardline internet into the computer before I think I start thinking about doing that. It might be a little while, but also that's fine because the game's not even out yet. But it has so much hype, and they might explain it as we're watching the video. Because, I just saw slots and plugs. Everybody could use more slots and plugs. Throw up for slots and plugs. Because Baldur's Gate, the series of games, were so beloved for such a long time. There hasn't been a new one that's come out since, like, I don't know, the 90s, like a really long time. And the studio that is running it, or taking control of it, is Larian Studios, who are, like, famous for high-quality role-playing games. They did the Divinity Original Sin series, which were just critically acclaimed across the board. So, you know, you have, like, the D&D name and the D&D rule set and the characters and all that stuff, and you're mixing it with Larian's sort of expertise in designing role-playing games and storytelling for role-playing games and those systems, mix them together. I'm very excited. And it's been a long time, like, it's been in production for a long time. It's still in, you know, pre-release, so any new news is good news, especially since hopefully you'll be watching it on this channel very soon. So let's learn more together, shall we?
Ben at Larian Studios for a look at all the recent progress they've made.
Also, the guy who runs the Larian Studio videos, I want to say his name is like Sven. You'll probably see him. He like talks all the time in the videos. He's just so goofy and fun. He just has such good vibes. I feel like working at that studio must be such a good time because they all just seem like they're just chilling, making badass video games, yucking it up. Like, they're corny, don't get me wrong. Like, this video will probably be corny and cheesy. I like that humor, so it doesn't bother me. But man, like, he seems like a very fun boss, all things considered.
Sven!
What did I say, Sven? What did I say, Sven?
There's an update.
Sven?
This is what I mean by their humor. We already have like a sort of like half their tiefling cosplay within the first like 30 seconds of it, but I'm here for it.
Sven? Have you guys seen Sven? There's an update. Okay. Sven? Sven? Sven?
Where's Sven? Where's Sven?
Sven? Who are you?
A doctor.
Okay. And where is Sven?
Sven is dead.
Incapacitated.
Incapacitated.
Concern grows over the healer's face.
Ooh.
He clearly suspects you're suffering the early effects of ceramorphosis.
What was that?
Now he just thinks you're weird.
It's like we're in the game. It's like the game is real. You die in the game, you die in real life.
You've got a parasite in your brain, and it must be removed. But first, according to the official apothecary health and safety protocols, we'll have to test your memory. Tell me, what do you still remember of the last 18 months?
You can't tell what's real or not, Moshi?
No?
I think I stopped trying to do that like 2 years ago. Roughly. I don't care anymore. This could all be a simulation. I'm just having a good time. Trying my best.
Suddenly, a trailer materializes in your mind's eye, fully formed.
Okay, alright, a little behind the scenes action. We love to see it. Alright, so I guess this is where they were. Alright, you're flexing on us. You transform the visuals. We get it. I mean, it does look pretty. Ooh. It's a cool effect. Yeah, that's like one thing. Two things they just showed there, like just to show like the attention to detail that the studio is putting into this stuff. Let's see if I can go back. They implemented this system. Let's see if I can pause it. When you like roll the dice in the Zordon, it was very Rangers, very Zordon. You can see here like on this pause screen, like they're porting over a lot of the experience of D&D like in a digital format as closely as they can. So you can see like when you do like a check in the game, like when you have to do a persuasion check, as you're seeing here, trying to talk to another person to convince them to do something. You can see the target number you have to hit. I'm pointing with my actual real-life human finger at the screen, like you can see that, or it affects anything. You can see the difficulty class, like the number that you have to hit to succeed, or if you're under, your fail. Normally only a DM would see that, but like obviously it's useful to know in a digital environment where you're the only one involved. But I thought it was a celery. Yeah, my... what is it, like your laser pointers when you're doing a PowerPoint, but it's just like a celery stick. So you can see they're really trying to replicate that live play experience because you're seeing the dice physically roll. You can see how your stat influences the roll. You can see if you're proficient in the skill, if that adds any bonuses. That is like a direct mechanic from the 5th edition of D&D, like a proficiency bonus that is directly from there, which is cool. And also, you can see right here, this is very, I don't want to say minute, but like, because it's a big thing in terms of like game design, but like the level of attention to detail is so precise. This right here is actually a spell that is being cast by another character in the party that is granting the main character, a bonus to this roll. And that is something that is like coded into the game, is like these circumstantial bonuses that other players can grant you in real time, like as you're rolling the dice. So cool. That is such like a specific mechanic that like exists in D&D. Like, you know, normally when you're playing, like your friend in the moment is like, oh, I forgot, like I can cast this and give you this buff, you know, like as you're doing your task or whatever. It happens so much. But to be able to have that replicated in the digital space to a degree, that's like so specific. Really shows you that they're paying attention to that. Yeah, and the visual's cool too, because everybody loves seeing the dice roll. I will be so surprised if there's not a way to like customize your dice, like the color and like the design of your dice in the UI. That would be pretty sweet. Because, you know, I'm one of those people who, like, if I'm playing a druid or a ranger, I'm going to use my green dice. And if I'm playing like a barbarian or like a tiefling, I want my red dice, you know, like I'm that guy. So that would be very cool if they let you have those sort of physical customizations, since that's such a big part of it anyway. But the other thing I wanted to show you here, another incredible attention to detail, and just shows how much the studio is like doing. There was so I carry dice in my pocket at all times and then roll them all day long. Yeah, because you obviously have to keep doing skill checks to make sure that you can survive throughout the day. How are you going to know if you can cross the street in an efficient manner if you don't roll your die first for your dexterity check? Obviously. But there was a version of the game that was out where, like, when you camped to take rest for your party, the system didn't like account for. It was sort of like one generic camp location that the party would always like go to for the camp scene, regardless of where your characters were out in the world, right? And people were like, that's immersion breaking, which is like a very specific thing to care about. I get it. But also, I mean, like, they're not wrong. Like, depending on the environment you're in, if it's a harsh transition, it can feel a little jarring. So they actually designed like multiple different camp scene locations that correspond to the biome and the environment that your party is in the moment when they choose to rest, to like give you that verisimilitude of actually being in that location when you're resting. Crazy. Oh, ad break. Oh, wow. We actually have ads now. I forgot because we're affiliate. That's crazy. Okay, so I don't know if like the thing I said about camp will appear after the ad break, or I should just keep talking about the camp stuff. I'm very new to having ads, but I'll just repeat what I said, and you know, people can yell at me later if it's the same. There was originally a version of the game where, depending on where, no matter where you were in the world, 2 ads. Okay, cool, very fun, very fun. Once again, I don't know if I should keep talking about camp stuff, because I don't really know how the ads work. Singing a song about ads. Keep talking. Okay. Nope, keep talking. Like, keep talking like as if I didn't already talk about camping, or should I go back to talking about camping? I like how you're like my guinea pig, Mochi. You are you are literally helping me figure out how the ads work on the Twitch stream. Should I go back and talk about the camping points, or should I just blow right past him? And I'm gonna keep singing about whether or not I should blow right past him and keep on playing the video. I wrote that song for the stream today while I was getting ready, so... The ads cut me off. Okay, there we go. Thank you for that confirmation. So, I actually should have gotten like a... I think I was supposed to get like a notification before that happens, but guess I didn't. The cool thing about this camping update was there was a version of the game where no matter where you were exploring in the world, there was like one sort of generic camp location, sort of like scene set, right? So if you needed to rest with your characters, it would transition to the camp scene, and then you would have those moments in the campsite. But there were some people who were sort of complaining. Maybe complaining is like time to push subs. Yeah, exactly. There was some people complaining, well, it kind of breaks my immersion because like I'm in a dark cave and my camp is in the forest, which is like a very specific thing to like complain about. I get it, but also, I mean, they do have a point. Like, there is a certain sense of verisimilitude you lose when there's such a harsh contrast. So they actually designed multiple different camp locations and scenes that correspond to the environments and the biomes that the characters are in those moments when they camp, to like not break that sense of immersion, like you're actually camping at like the quarry versus the beachside versus whatever, which is just such a, once again, they had to design all those different scenes and like make sure that they all work with the animations for the characters they already have. Like very specific detail. But it just shows like all the love that's going into it, so it's very cool. I'm gonna keep on keeping on. Anything can happen at the camp. Let's hope.
A lot of great stuff already. And
Let's get weird at the
where that
camp.
came from. So join us in early access on our journey to Baldur's Gate 3, or come along in 2023 when the game releases.
Whoa, 2023.
No, wait, your Ceramorphosis!
I thought it was sooner than that, but that's fine. I'll wait.
Baldur's Gate 3 keeps getting better and better. There is still a lot more in store for the game with an expected 2023 release date.
But in the meantime, let's set our sights on glorious adventures and fresh new locales in Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel. Give us all the insider details. Here are Ajit George and Wes Schneider.
Hi, I'm Ajit George.
And I'm Wesley Schneider, and we're here today to talk about Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel. A new
Blink in 2023, you're not wrong.
Adventures.
Already the time
One
has
of
gone
the
so
things I
fast.
love most about this book is that we got 16 black and brown writers to put together stories based on their lives, their backgrounds, their cultures, and their myths to weave.
Very cool. If y'all are very familiar with like D&D drama and discourse, there's been a huge push by the community to get a more diverse writing pool, a more from all walks of life experience, to create different worlds, more fleshed out worlds, more content that are more representative. And I think the push for, if I'm not mistaken, the Radiant Citadel, this book you're talking about, was such a big leap in that direction. And Wizards has got a lot of flack for not doing the best job at representation and the in a lot of different realms, heritage wise, or even like ability wise, physical mental ability. They've gotten a lot of flack. So I'm glad that they're trying to make steps forward in this direction. And I'm sure it's not perfect. No one ever is. But I'm hopeful. I want to see. I want to see more life experience being brought to this game. So very exciting stuff.
13 incredible adventures and 15 new locations that players and DMs can really dig into.
This anthology covers levels 1 to 14 and really highlights the incredible diversity of possibilities and adventures that you can see in Dungeons & Dragons.
The Radiant Citadel could be a gateway through to all of the 15 lands described in there, but also there are 12 missing portals or Concord jewels that are transports. And that could be used to make links to their locations in their own home game.
The adventures and locations, you can run these as one-off adventures themselves, or you can set them in any of a host of campaign settings.
Like Spelljammer. I mean, like, we're already talking about portals and other dimensions. This would seem like a really cool tie-in, you know, finding these portals to help you ferry or space vessel to different lands. I could definitely see that mixing together well. That's a cool idea.
In writing for the Radiant Citadel, all of the writers, they share their notes with each other, and so you will see seeds of each other's lands and adventures within the other, and you get the sense of like a shared world. The cultures, they all connect to the Radiant Citadel in that the Radiant Citadel is ruled by a group called the Speakers for the Ancestors.
Journey to the Radiant Citadel includes multiple adventures. We're going to talk about just 3 of them here today, starting off with the adventure Wages of Vice.
Wages of Vice is a 5th level adventure. The art is gorgeous, bright, a lot of pastels, something you don't usually see in D&D, probably evocative of the Caribbean and the people. I think people are just going to grab onto this art and it's going to provoke their imagination to kind of sink into the land and the culture.
Our 14th level adventure is called Orchids of the Invisible Mountain.
That's a mouthful.
And this is a plane-spanning adventure where you start off in this region called Antagua. You're going to see mystery and majesty of the Feywild, but then go all the way to the inscrutable Far Realm and face creatures in the realm of madness. This adventure also includes a new monster, the Whistler, a Far Realm entity that's going to horrify your parties.
The Fiend of Hollow Mine is a 4th level adventure. It takes place in the city of Saint Satlan and the festival, the Night of the Remembered.
That's
when
cool.
The departed and the
That's
dead
very fun.
come back to celebrate with their lost ones, the loved ones, in this raucous party of skeletons and spirits. And for this one night, those who have been lost come back and share this beautiful moment, and the players get to be part of that.
That's really cool. I mean, obviously we've seen. I'm looking for the start. Yeah, I know. It's gorgeous. This sort of like D&D version of the Day of the Dead. Very cool. I feel like there's so many stories you could tell with that sort of concept. You know, if like the spirits of the departed are actually coming back to like. Oh man, like you could have like, you know, ancient family secrets, you know, unfurled, or, you know, dramas from their lives passed down, like, yeah, or like ancient secrets of artifacts, you know, like, that's cool. There's so many story seeds you could plant in that one concept. Wow, very neat.
This book has so much to offer. 13 new...
And, of course, undead monsters, because we all love us some undead monsters.
Adventures, 16 new locations.
And this is all just a taste of the adventures, the locations, and the monsters that you're going to find in Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel when it releases on June 21st.
Very neat.
I can already see the Dungeon Master wheels in your mind turning, B-Dave.
Yes, you know me, and I am what I am, and it is absolutely true, which is why I feel qualified to appeal now to our fellow Dungeon Masters. What we have for you next is something you have never seen before.
We've never seen it before.
But I feel compelled to fortify you with caution. For once you cast your gaze on these, you will not be able to live without them. You have
What are you selling me? What are you selling me, sir? Okay, alright. A box. Okay. Oh, okay. This is actually very cool. This is actually very cool. So, this is actually very cool. I'll let this play a little bit longer, and then I'll talk about why this is a neat idea. Or bogs, yeah. Let's bring him back.
I love how you can apply those monster clings and then just easily peel them back off and reuse them. Handy and sustainable.
Next, we have the...
Okay, that's... Alright, so... Unearth my slammers. That sounds... I'll unearth my slammers. That has implications. That's actually really cool, this product they just unveiled, because I talked a lot on one of the DM streams, which I Oh boy, huh? I talked a bit on one of the DM streams about, theater of the mind versus running games with physical props and miniatures. And I should have done, and I plan on, I'm sure I'll talk about it many times during the stream. I should have talked sort of more about the benefits of running things on a grid, like with miniatures, because a lot of the rules are written with the assumption that you're already running the game on a grid, and especially things with like distance increments and like radiuses for spells and things. They're all saying like, 5-foot increments on a grid. Like the rules are designed for it to be run that way, and so the miniatures and like the grid help that. But one criticism that I still have, and I think is true, is miniatures are expensive, carrying them around is a hassle, and being able to find, like, of course you don't have to do this. Like if your adventure calls for like a black dragon and the only cool mini that you have is a green dragon, you can always use the green dragon and say it's a black dragon. No one's gonna throw you down a flight of stairs for it. But it's one of those things where, like, if you want to get the minis that you really crave that like fully represent your character in those moments, you have to like headhunt for them, and you have to like buy them a la carte, and they can be so expensive, and then there's storing them and transporting them. But these little pogs, or these little discs with little stickers, other companies have done ideas like this before. I think Pathfinder did a whole series of like entire bestiaries that were almost like little plastic paper like minis that just like had little stands. You just plugged them in, and then they stood up, and they were double-sided, which were far more cost effective because you buy like an entire book of these things, and you're getting hundreds of monsters at a time versus like having to buy fully 3D realized miniatures one at a time. Like, they're far more cost effective. The chances are that you're going to find a mini that like more represents your, or paper mini or plastic little thin mini that represents like your character, your monster, is much higher, right? And they're so much easier to store and carry around. So that is actually really cool for tables that are physically running on a grid and using the pieces. Having a solution which makes everything easier to transport for the DM, and like she just mentioned, like being able to remove the sticker and place them back on, making them sustainable, so you don't have to keep buying the pads and the stickers for reusing monsters and things like that. That's actually a very smart idea, and I'm glad they're thinking in those terms for the players who run their games in that way, to make sure that they can make it just easier for them to store and run and buy and keep and reuse. That is, I mean, don't get me wrong, people love their actual minis, as they already tried to sell us really fancy minis early on. Yeah, that's true. I mean, we won't know. The question is the durability of the stickers. That is the big question, because you could restick them maybe 2 or 3 times, and then they rip or whatever, and then you have to buy new ones anyway. That would be kind of a bust. But in concept, I like it. That's really fun. So good on you, team at Wizards. There was actually a time when I was transitioning from my game to be before I started running entirely Theater of the Mind, where I was still running on like a dry erase map grid. I was thinking about getting the paper minis or like the plastic stand-up minis. So this is an idea that I toyed with and ultimately moved away from. But like, if this idea would have existed back then, and like more accessibly, I might have done it. It's cool.
In case that will also enhance your D&D experience like never before.
Okay, so we had the minis, and now this is like the terrain that you're on, the actual adventure location. Okay. Are they dry erase? Okay, so there's... Okay, another vodka set. Yeah, D&D themed vodka. Dragon's Breath vodka, they could call it. Wizards, don't steal that. If you heard me say that, Wizards, you are contractually obligated to pay me for Dragon's Breath vodka. I was actually I was looking at these tiles, and in my mind I was thinking, cool, but... if you have like a terrain piece that is a forest, how easily could you reuse that for other scenarios? Like if it has a bunch of trees on it or whatever. because that's why I used the dry erase markers, the dry erase maps when I was running D&D via Grid, because it made it so easy to change the scene or like add a new piece to the environment that I needed to on the fly. So the fact that these two are stickers, like the terrain props and pieces of the trees, that's smart. Once again, a very smart idea. I'm into it. There is still like that. Well, the issue that I talked about in the DM stream where it was like, oh, you know, what if you set up your tiles to be a certain scene or a certain moment or a certain fight, and then your players narratively go in a different direction, and now you don't have that, you know, you might have to like unset that all up and set something new up. But with this, at least, even if you run into that issue, it is far more manageable than if you brought like actual terrain pieces like 3D rocks and 3D trees and 3D buildings and da-da-da. This is far easier to manage and change on the fly. So this is a smart idea, a cool idea. Any tool that allows the DM more flexibility in the moment to like alter the scenes and also create immersion for the players, I'm for. I'm all for keeping flexibility high and immersion high. And that's why I run Theater of the Mind, because it's very easy to have high immersion and have high flexibility when you're all visually interpreting the world in like an imaginary play space. But to have props that more easily enable you to do that, that's a-okay in my book. So that's actually a very cool design choice.
I definitely want both of these campaign cases in my arsenal.
Always both.
Always both. Definitely both.
Which is why it is so great that they'll be available this July. Next, we're thrilled to take you from the tabletop to the big screen with an exciting update from the filmmakers of the upcoming D&D movie.
Okay, so here's the thing. I know very little about the D&D movie because there have been some D&D film adaptations in the past, and they have not been good. They're very, I mean, you can look up the Rotten Tomatoes scores yourself. They're not good. And D&D is such a hard thing to make a movie about because there's like no, I mean, there are canon characters and canon events and canon settings, but like, you know, D&D is usually the story that you're telling with your friends, your characters, your moments. It's hard to like make that same level of interpersonal storytelling translate to like a film. That's what Stranger Things. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like D&D featuring in Stranger Things as a theme is probably the closest we've ever had to like a good D&D media product. So I can't say that I'm necessarily excited about the D&D movie because I just like, you know, I don't play D&D for the idea of it being a movie. I play it for like me and my friends and the stories that we're writing together. You know, like D&D Wizards can come up with like, since there may be a new drinking game movie. Yeah, that's true too. I'm sure there'll be lots of like memeable moments in this, or like in jokes or quotes you could turn into a drinking game. But what was I gonna say? You know, I like D&D for the interpersonal stories that are told like with your friends, which I can't imagine you can manufacture the same way in a movie can, even if you're using like famous characters or creatures or scenes from D&D lore proper. But hey, I'll still see it, right? Like I'll still give Wizards my money because I'm a fan and like I want to be a part of like the cultural moment that it is. So yeah, once again, not necessarily excited for it, but I'm interested to see what the heck is happening. D&D reality show? Like D&D reality in and of itself is like such a like does not compute D&D fantasy reality show. Yeah, just like a goblin and a dragon and like a mind flayer and like probably just like a regular human hanging out in the house together and seeing what happens. Then like the mind flayer and the goblin hook up and it's super weird for everybody. But yeah, that's an idea. Let's sell that to Wizards along with Dragon Breath vodka.
Hi, I'm John Francis Daly.
And I'm Jonathan Goldstein. After years of being devoted players, we, like you, have spent a lot of time imagining the incredible places, characters, and limitless adventure that D&D offers.
We could not
be more excited to bring this world to the big screen. We just wrapped shooting in some of the most incredible locations.
It's a dream come true to bring the Forgotten Realms and the Sword Coast to life. We set out to capture the spirit of fun and surprise that we all love about D&D.
Thank you to our awesome partners at Wizards of the
Tommy Wiseau needs to direct this movie. Yeah, but he also needs to star in it. Like, he needs to be the Grand Wizard. Like, I would pay good money to see Tommy Wiseau pretending to cast spells for like an hour and a half, saying like incantations. I will gladly give my money to.
But most importantly, thank you to you, the greatest fans in the world.
It's going to be in theaters March 2023. We can't wait for you to see it.
Ooh. Wow, okay. That's all we got?
Have it. Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves coming to theaters March 2023.
It cannot get here soon enough. And I love how film is another incredible way to inspire and invite new players to join the D&D community. There's just so much...
So we know very little. We know that it is set in the Sword Coast, which is sort of like the Forgotten Realms, which is sort of like the default fantasy land setting that D&D typically runs a lot of its adventures in. Most of the material for 5th edition has been written for the Forgotten Realms. So a lot of people will be very familiar with the characters and or I should say the locations. Like, I'm sure if we're seeing a boat and we're talking about Honor Amongst Thieves, I'm sure we're going to see Waterdeep, which is like the main metropolis that's like on the water and has all the political intrigue and all the shady deals happening in the background. So, yeah, Honor Amongst Thieves. I mean, we're probably going to get some storylines that have to do with like rogues galleries and thieves guilds and all that stuff, which is cool. I'm wondering how high fantasy they'll go with it. Obviously, I think if you're running D&D, a D&D movie, like, I want to see some fantastic magical effects or some 3D. Maybe a dragon. That would make sense. I'm sure they're contractually obligated to have at least one. But yeah, that pretty much gave us nothing. We know there'll probably be a character who's a rogue in it because it's Honor Amongst Thieves, and if there's not a rogue character in a story that has the word thief in it, I will be very surprised. We're gonna get one CGI dragon at least, and Waterdeep is gonna absolutely show up for sure. That's what I'm saying.
It is always the perfect time to try your first game. And it makes it easier than ever for new players to join us and create these lasting memories and experiences for themselves.
You're so right, B-Dave, and especially right now, it's the digital aspects of this set that make it so simple. Take a look at this. This brand new D&D starter set not only features a fresh new adventure, it comes with digital onboarding tools that immediately introduce new players to the basics.
It has never been easier, and the set itself is also different from the current starter set. It is more streamlined and easier to understand. Additionally, the starter set contains everything you need to start playing the world's greatest role-playing game.
It's always so exciting to welcome the next generation of players, and this starter set is the best way for players to share their love of D&D with their friends and family members, and especially kids.
Speaking of amazing digital content, a new D&D digital library is available on the D&D website today. Just use or create your Wizards account to get access to all this new digital content right now. We already told you about the Spelljammer Academy.
Okay, so they're kind of pushing forwards, and your grandparents, yeah. I cannot tell you. I've like floated the idea of trying to get like my family involved in a D&D game just once because I've been doing it since I was a kid. And I just have no idea how I would ever. I played D&D with my friend Mackenzie once, who like we really like roped her into it because it was like not her normal thing. And I remember like the glazed eye look she gave us as I was like trying to paint the scene of like what was happening. And I'll never forget this quote because I think it is so. It is like what people who like don't understand or like don't like D&D I think truly feel when they're in the environment, people who do. And she just looked at us and with such earnest sort of like like desperation in her voice just said, "My mind can't go where you guys are going." Just like, my mind can't go where you guys are going. And I feel like that would be my family in a nutshell. Especially my you gotta put them in a real world setting. Oh my god, yeah. Dungeons and Dragons becomes restaurants and I don't know, rockin' tours. I don't know what that my family would get that actually very well. So yeah, another starter kit is interesting. So if you're not familiar with what materials are out there for D&D right now for people who are starting into the hobby, there's already 2 starter kits. There is the Lost Mines of Phandelver starter kit, which was the first one, which has the adventure I just named, the Lost Mines of Phandelver. And then there is, I believe, the Dragon of Icespire Peak, which was like a newer starter kit that came out a little afterward. And now we have a third one, which is just interesting. Because on one hand, I'm like, well, just like there are multiple regular adventures for people who are already familiar with the game, I guess it's also cool that there are multiple starting adventures, so, you know, you can have different flavors of how you're going to start new players off. But also, it's like, how many of these starter kits do we haven't gotten them right yet? We keep making them, and we haven't gotten them right yet. But, I mean, I guess I shouldn't be complaining too much because, like, it seems like we're already getting so much content, regardless of whether the fact that we're getting another new starter kit. But yeah, it's like I'd be interested to see like what they mean by like it's more streamlined, it's easier to understand, and how that differs from how the current starter kits are already set up. Cool that it seems like it's kind of like a beach themed. If I'm looking at that from the art, yeah, you have an ocean, you have the sand. First time they had. That's a good question, Mochi. So I know that there are elements of the digital content, like when they, well, at least actually, D&D Beyond at least has elements of all the different campaign books and even the starter kits. I believe are they have portions for them for the online tools. But if this is like a Wizards Direct online tool. That is sort of an upgrade, we'll say, a new piece of out, which is interesting. I'm a little torn on digital. I'm a little torn on digital play as introducing it as a new player. For me, I mean, obviously, as the stream is showing everyone in the world, you know, I'm playing digitally with my friends right now. Because that is just like how the world has evolved, right? With everything that has been going on. But for me, the most important, the most, you know, riveting and the most impactful way to play D&D is together, in person, rolling dice, seeing everybody's faces, which I know is not possible for everyone. So making these online tools more accessible is definitely important, and I'm glad they're doing it. Yeah, I just don't know if I would want that to, personally, I don't know if I'd want that to be my first experience with D&D, because I know personally a lot of times when I tell people about D&D and like what I do and why I like it, like their first kind of comment is like, oh, it's like a video game, and they get kind of turned off because like even though, you know, people shouldn't judge people for playing video games or like whatever, like I like video games. I don't play a lot as much as I used to anymore, but like I like it, but I also get why the idea of playing a video game would turn people off, because they can be time consuming and like it's hard to get involved, and like it's, you know, a lot of people don't like trying to train their reflexes with a controller. Like, I get all of that. And so a lot of people will see the digital tools for D&D and they'll think, oh, it's like a D&D video game. Like, I don't like video games. But that's obviously not what it is. It is converting the rules of the tabletop game into the digital environment. So, yeah, I'm glad they're doing it. I can see why in the world it needs it. But, man, it does make me sad to think that like, I wouldn't want my first D&D experience to be totally digital. I would definitely want to be there with my friends or family rolling the dice. I think it's just a completely different experience. Even running a digital game like I do now, I mean, like, maybe in the future I'll skew more towards digital tools depending on how good they get and things, but like you'll see now, even on the stream, I run most things like with paper and pencil behind the screen and like roll the die, because it's just like how I was raised to play, and it still kind of gives me that feeling of being at a physical table. Yeah, interesting. I'm glad they're doing it, but I hope more people get to play it, you know, in the round, if you will, at the table than they do through the screen. Because I don't think for your first experience, it's going to give you the real feel of, like, what D&D is. But cool they're doing it.
It's always so exciting to welcome the next generation of players, and this starter set is the best way for players to share their love of D&D with their friends and family members, and especially kids.
Speaking of amazing...
I just saw that Candy is rating with a party of 37, which is a huge amount of people. Hi, everyone. This is nuts. Just so you know, I am literally watching and commenting on the D&D release stream that just came out today, the brand new release. So hopefully you all like. Wow. Hey, yes, Candy's cousin. That's me. I am Wolf Scott. I am Candy's cousin. Holy wow. Thank you so much for showing up. That's crazy. Also, you are all officially, all those people who just showed up, you are on our first official affiliate stream. We just hit affiliate last stream, largely because of some of the extra follows that we got because Candy showed up on our stream. So thank you again for supplying that with us. That's amazing. So yeah, this is I was just doing the stream for like gigs. I was like, oh yeah, I'll just talk about the new releases that showed today because they're brand new and I haven't even watched them. And now suddenly there are almost 40 people in here to see me comment on it. So I hope you enjoy D&D announcements and commentary because that's what you're getting. And also celery sticks because that is another thing that we have here today. Ahoy, I love your mustache. But Candy, are you out mustaching me on my own stream? That is bad form. But thank you. Yeah, I grew the mustache as a joke. Well, not as a joke. I did it for Movember. I didn't expect it to stick around, but it has gotten a lot of compliments, so it's sticking around for a little bit. Wow. This is cool. Thank you, everyone. I'm gonna keep this this video going because we got like 10 minutes left of it. Although I'm definitely milking it every time I'm stopping it to watch
Just
and
use
comment.
or create your Wizards account to get access to all this new digital content right now.
New starter kit for anyone who's just joining us.
But there's something else, and it's one of my favorite things. The new
Thick is always better. 2 C's.
Digital Monstrous Compendium. Talk about another treasured memory. I mean, all the way back to the beginning, one of my favorite things to do was to get the old Monstrous Compendium and look at all the stat blocks and all the art and just dream about all these terrible creatures, beholders and umber hulks and mind flayers.
Can I have a displacer beast?
So here's something, just a small bit of trivia for you. He just named 3 very famous D&D monsters: Mind Flayers, Beholders, and Umber Hulks, and then, ironically enough, she just said Displacer Beast. All famous D&D monsters. I've never run a single one in a game. In like my 14 years, I don't know how long, 15 years since high school, since I was like 14 or 15, playing D&D, I've never run any of those monsters. So I'm making it a personal goal to write an adventure, or at least run an adventure that involves them, because it has been far too long, well, forever, but I mean, to have those famous monsters at your disposal and not completely wreck your friends with them, bad form as the DM. I gotta do that.
We can have both. Why not both?
Fair.
You know, I mean, I can still see my massive 2nd edition binder. Bold.
Gandhi, thank you so much. Have fun. Thank you so much for showing up. Your name is actually really cool, especially if you... Yeah, I mean, are you talking about Wolf Scott or Level 1 Adventuring? Because hopefully you mean both. Yeah, check thy snap. Check thy snap. Candy Bear 5. Check it.
The seams with iconic art because, well, I mean, I still have it.
Of course.
No, I love that thing. And I'm so excited they are bringing it back that it will continue to be updated.
Monstrous Compendium Volume 1 will be available to all players with a Wizards account or a D&D Beyond account, and comes with 10 monsters from Spelljammer, both well-known and completely brand new for your collection.
Okay.
Throughout the year, you can collect more volumes of the Monstrous Compendium and expand your collection.
Wolf Scott's actually a pretty badass name as well. Yes, thank you. Candy said that I should mention some of my voice acting stuff. So hey, sure, I'll pause it and let y'all know. So I'm Voice Scott. I'm Wolf Scott. I'm a voice actor, amongst other things. But my 2 sort of biggest claims to fame, if you will, if you want to see projects that I've done, is if you are familiar with the franchise Yu-Gi-Oh! Obviously a very popular card game and anime when I was growing up. There's a season of Yu-Gi-Oh! Called Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains. It came out a couple years ago, pre the world changing. And I play a character called Kitamura. He's sort of like a comedic relief villain character. Nobody takes him seriously. He's not much of an actual threat, but he thinks he is. And he was very fun. He was very fun to voice. And also, I was very fortunate to actually do, if any of you actually play Yu-Gi-Oh! And you play their app, I believe it's called Duel Links, if I'm not mistaken. I actually voiced some characters on Duel Links, like some extraneous characters, and I did some background characters on Vrains as well. But it was cool, so I actually got to do a video game project for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise, and I got to do the actual animation project. So, yeah, you can see me as Kitamura on Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains for the first season, I think it is. Yeah, so that's the thing. And then also, if you're into D&D, you might also like other fantasy properties like Skyrim. And because you all are on Twitch, you probably are video game people as well. So yeah, Skyrim. If you are into modding at all, modding your Skyrim games, there is a mod out there called Nebra, the High Elf Mercenary, who is a companion character that you can conscript to follow you on your adventures, who is fully voiced by me. He is quest aware. He comments on various events that are happening in Skyrim, characters you'll find, monsters you'll fight, and that has been a very cool project to be a part of because I did not expect for people to be as enamored with that character as they were, because he's kind of just like a snide, snarky jerk of a character, like even to you, the hero, and his like benefactor. But people love him, and I created a Discord for the fans to show up and like, you know, talk about the updates to the mod, and you know, seeing like the fan art that they make and the screen caps they grab and like the memes they make based off of Nebra it always brings me great joy as a creator. So yeah, if you sweet, I've definitely played Skyrim. Yes, please do. Please check out Nebra, the High Elf Mercenary. So, and also open to work. if you need a voice actor, hey, here I am. Check me out on my website, thewolfscott.com. Got my reels and everything. But anyway, back to whatever they're talking about here, monster books, which I do love. I actually told the origin story of my D&D love affair was actually because of the monster manual. Gotta get, oh, I hear my cat crying. I gotta let her in 1 second. Maybe you all will be able to meet her. Come here. Come here, Bubs. She's crying. She's sad girl. My whole D&D love affair started over the monster books, actually the monster manual in particular. So I am excited they are releasing more monster content. That is cool.
Monsters from across the multiverse.
For example, Volume 1 features the Eldritch Lich, one of the most powerful undead wizards to ever exist, which is something I'm super pumped about. And then there's something I know that you're going to be...
Yeah, I could have used the stat block for a super powerful Eldritch Lich in my actual campaign. There was a whole main villain arc. Actually, if you're familiar with D&D lore, I was sort of I wrote Zaz Tom, like the ancient Lich lord of the Red Wizards in the story. He was like the main foil to one of my player characters, and so I took a Lich stat block and I like changed it and I made it like more threatening and cool. But yeah, having a pre-written super powerful badass Lich would have been helpful.
About the 10-legged asteroid spider.
Is 10 legs better than 8? Or
I mean, objectively better than 8. There's more legs. That's more better.
I'm not sure.
Well, you know,
can it be a spider if it has more than 8 legs? I think isn't like that the whole point, that it like arachnids are 8-legged? Is that a thing? I mean, I get that like if it looks like a spider and it quacks like a spider and it has lots of legs like a spider, you can call it a spider. But is it actually a spider if it has 10 legs? Question for the ages. Also, I noticed we gained some more followers from the raid. Thank you so much, guys. That's so kind. Now I know more legs are better. Yeah, obviously, that's what he said, and he's running the stream. So, duh. But yeah, thank you for the follows, friends. And is 10 legs a spider? That's going to be the name of the video. Is 10 legs a spider? You decide.
At least one monster none of us have seen, the Star Lancer.
That's really exciting. I can't wait to see that. And it's only a tiny taste of all the stuff coming to players this year in their D&D digital library on the D&D website.
Dungeons and Dragons.
That's true. A human with arm, human with arm. Human with one arm is still a human. A spider with, but that means still has more legs than a regular spider would have. I'm having a hard time making sense of that. But I mean, it's an alien, right? So who am I? Alien spiders, who knows? Spiders from different dimensions, like, as we know them, might exist in an entirely different form on the other plane, my dudes and dudettes. Like, who knows? Who knows?
Everyone around the world. That's why we're delighted to
Human centipede, no. Just no. I will die on this hill. I have a friend who, actually Lauren from the stream, from the actual D&D stream. So everyone who just showed up, Wednesday nights we play actual D&D. Right now I'm just sort of vibing and watching the new announcement. But we actually play D&D on Wednesdays. Lauren will be there. She loves the Human Centipede and claims that it is such a smart horror film. And maybe it is. But I cannot bring myself to watch it. And I can't imagine I ever will unless I am forcibly made to do so. No. No, as in it's not good, or it is good and I'm being dumb for not watching it. Regardless, I think that is just a part of my life that I'm fine with skipping out on. I can shed off my mortal coil in this incarnation and be totally fine with the fact that I never saw the Human Centipede. I think I'll be fine.
Books will be available in French, Italian, German, and Spanish.
This is a tremendous expansion to the list of titles Wizards of the Coast first started offering in European languages.
There's a Human Centipede 1, 2, and 3. Does that mean that there are currently 3 active Human Centipedes in the world? Because that is exactly 3 more than that need to exist. I can say that much. It gets worse. All brilliant. Yeah, I mean, like, I get the appeal, like the body horror. I mean, I get why people are, but that is just something that I feel like I will never unsee. Like, I struggle to sleep as it is. You know, I already developed my own nightmares for myself on a regular basis. I don't need anybody giving me more fuel for that fire. That's fine.
2021. We're thrilled to announce that these titles will now be available. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, Monsters of the Multiverse, Curse of Strahd.
Big fan.
Okay.
Me too.
Okay. More
New
languages.
starter set.
Spreading them out. We love that.
Next, let's see how Gearbox Publishing is pulling us back into the Forgotten Realms with this exclusive video for the action MMORPG Neverwinter.
Ah, interesting. Okay, I had a very brief love affair with Neverwinter on the PlayStation, I think. Because I had a bunch of friends from back home who I used to play D&D with when I was but a wee lad. And we all thought it'd be fun to play the digital version. MMOs are... You look like Tony Stark, and it's possibly the best thing my friends ever told me. Hey, I am not mad about that whatsoever. I wish I could do a really good, like, Robert Downey Jr. impersonation. Just be like, I am Iron Man. But I'm not Iron Man as much as I wish I was. Thank you so much. That is a compliment as far as I'm concerned. MMOs are one of those things, as a person who loves role-playing games and loves D&D and loves socializing, like, with their fantasy games. MMOs are one of those things that I always get so excited about. Like, the concept is so everything that I'm into. But then I actually start playing them, and I never quite as invested as I think I'm going to be. Maybe it's like, you know, the grind, and you have to, you know, play through so much of the game just to make your character applicable to play like that. The end game content where, like, you're actually raiding, like, with your friends, and, like, I don't know, it's like, I don't know if I have that within me. You know, to, like, there's something just about that experience versus, like, a traditional role-playing game, like, I don't know, Dragon Age or Skyrim or something, where no matter what, you're always sort of, like, involved in something cool, even when you're just playing. So even if you've sank, like, hundreds of hours into it, you're never, like, in a lull, so to speak. But yeah, MMOs are one thing I always really want to love, and it never quite gets me. And so, I mean, it's cool that Neverwinter's still around. I'm glad that like that project as a D&D property is still alive. But yeah, it never really quite got me. But I'm interested to see what is coming up for it. Let's see.
I've spent my life studying the enigma of dragonkind. What drives them, where to find them, the power they command. I've watched them build.
A lot of blue dragon love in these past couple videos. The new starter kit seems like the main villain is a blue dragon from the cover art. We got blue dragons starting off this this expansion. Blue dragons were always some of my favorite dragons as a kid, mostly just because I loved their design. I loved that like big honkin' rhino horn on their faces. Y'all might see that dragon is a thick boy. Yeah, strong boy, mean boy. All the D&D dragons have like sort of very distinct visual cues between them, and the blue's claim to fame is definitely this like massive rhino horn. I always dug that about its design. It just looks like such like a brute force kind of creature. But yeah, a lot of blue dragon love these past couple products.
I've watched them build and topple whole societies, and I've seen the truth behind their treacherous words. They can be cold and callous. Some are outright savage, while others are more calculated in their ruinous pursuits.
Okay.
No matter their motivations, whatever fuels their primal rage, it is my responsibility to protect the citizens of Faerun from these dragons.
It's a noble lad.
Tell me, Dragon Slayer, will you join us?
Okay, interesting. From what I understand of Neverwinter, from playing a little bit of it, right, Anubis may... Oh, okay. Thank you for the warning. I appreciate it. Anubis, behave yourself. We're new. Don't get us in trouble already. But interesting that... so the Neverwinter expansions, from what I've seen, have all been based off of usually events from the actual released adventures, right? Like they had I believe they had like a Strahd expansion when the Strahd book came out and things like that. They sort of always try to time the releases of the digital content with the written content. So interesting that this like Dragon Slayer seems entirely like dragon based, because that was the whole Rise of Tiamat, Horde of the Dragon Queen narrative, was like fighting dragons constantly, and that was the very first adventure that was ever released for 5th edition, the one that I'm actually still running today, like 8 years later, as like a full 20th level campaign, which is a whole other story because it isn't even designed to go to 20th level. That was like my madcap idea. So interesting that they're kind of going back to the whole dragon themes so late in the game for them. I mean, it's D&D. There's always going to be dragons, so it makes sense. Hopefully they give you some new content, some new monsters to fight. I have very low skin in this game in terms of this particular announcement, but hey, we love like raid bosses, like big scary bads to fight. Dragons are great for that.
You can play this next major expansion to Neverwinter on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. New dragon lairs, spectacular dragon hunting, and a fresh Tiamat trial await you.
Streaming has helped demystify Dungeons & Dragons for a whole new generation of...
Yeah, streaming Dungeons & Dragons has helped demystify the game for a generation, so follow Level 1 Adventuring on Twitch. Join us Wednesdays when we play our live streamed campaign. We're 3 episodes in, having a grand old time. And if you want to learn more about D&D game design and like game philosophy, that'll be Mondays, me talking about that, making some content. I believe my friend Joe's going to be joining me. We haven't talked about it officially, but they did message me about it. Talking about actually designing things for the 5th edition of D&D. So that's Mondays and Wednesdays of the game. So come join us.
There has never been more great D&D content to watch. It has also opened the gates for incredible content to be created, including one new D&D show I'm personally quite partial to because I happen to have the honor of being a part of it. It's called Legends of the Multiverse. Let's take a look at the new ambitious D&D play series in this exciting trailer.
All right, so they're definitely leaning into the Starjammer. Absolutely, they have to be with this the '80s synth they brought back and all like the star. Yeah. This... Ooh, I like this character a lot. A playable Mind Flayer. Is that something they talked about in the announcement? That's not a Star Wars character. Yeah, they are by law they have to say that it's not a Star Wars character. I don't think they talked about having a playable Mind Flayer ancestry. That's cool. Maybe they like homebrewed it. That'd also be interesting to see. Wow. Okay. This is a huge cast, by the way. How many people we just see? 6 and we're still going? That is a big game of D&D. 4 is like your average manageable number of humans. I run 6, which is, I believe, on the higher end. I don't think I would personally run higher than 6. That is a mess. I've been a part of games in college which were more than 6, and it was mostly just an opportunity, like an excuse for everyone to hang out and like drink too much and like eat too much and just like with D&D going on in the background. But it wasn't really like a game. It was not manageable as an experience. But wow, this is a huge cast. Or maybe this is the primary cast? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, maybe this is like the primary cast and the people they just named are like NPCs who are being... That would be interesting if there were like actual other actors who were playing the NPCs that the DM usually plays. If you're talking about ambitious projects that D&D is funding, that would definitely be the direction to go to. But because there were some famous voice actors in there in that lineup. Okay, interesting.
You can watch Legends of the Multiverse on the Dungeons & Dragons YouTube and Twitch channels when it premieres later this month. As a storyteller, I absolutely love the way D&D invites everyone into this world of adventure. Whether they want to play it on the tabletop, experience it through video games, watch it on the big screen, or be swept away through the pages of an expertly crafted novel.
You're so right, B-Dave. D&D brings us together in such fun...
They said novel. Are you going where I think you're going? You can give us a new book?
Meaningful ways. And that's why it was so exciting to see all the new contents and products coming our way in 2022 and beyond. From incredible brands like Spelljammer, Baldur's Gate 3, and Neverwinter.
And from products like the new campaign cases, the Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel anthology, the Reborn starter set.
All right, so now here we are. We're re-talking about all the things we already talked about, right? D&D fidget spinners. I mean, I'm sure they already exist, but I mean, I could see myself buying one.
So much more.
In fact, here is a sneak peek of a brand new miniatures gaming experience coming later
Wow.
this year.
Okay, so we have another new game coming out. All right, WizKids, the miniatures.
In the forgotten dungeons of the Forgotten Realms, an elusive treasure awaits you. But standing between you and your prize, the monsters who lie beneath. Gather your party, press forward, and beware your rivals. The Harbors.
Stand in our way.
Hold fast. The Zintara.
Only the Harbors oppose us.
Let no creature pass.
And those who guard the keep.
Okay.
A brand new tactical skirmish miniatures game.
Okay.
In the Dungeons and Dragons universe. Are you brave enough to face the onslaught? Pre-order at your game store or online.
Interesting. I want to see if they say anything about that.
Monsters and worthy rivals on a quest for treasure and glory in this exciting combat board game. You can get your hands on Dungeons and Dragons Onslaught in local game stores this October.
We've traveled...
Okay, that's interesting. So a miniature-specific game in D&D is not, like, unheard of. I remember very specifically back when I was playing 3rd edition in high school, when we would buy the miniatures that we would use strictly for the role-playing game purposes, they came with these little cards. And the cards on one side gave you the stats for the monster as they were represented in the 3rd edition rules if you were actually playing, you know, D&D with your friends. And on the other side, they had a slightly different set of stats that represented them in a combat-based miniatures game, which I never really learned the full rules to play because we were, you know, playing actual D&D. I'm not quite sure what they're like. I mean, it's pretty vague with sort of the style of play. I mean, we get that there are different factions. So like I always say the Zentarim, but they said Zentarum, so now I guess I've been corrected on my pronunciation. But the Zentarum are a faction in D&D, in the Forgotten Realms. The Harpers, which are shown here, they are a faction within the lore and the canon of D&D. So there's a part of me that's thinking, okay, is this like Warhammer, where you're playing against another player with your miniature army that you have to build, and you're using the themes of these organizations to help you build your like warband, but then they say like gather your party and fight against the monsters, and then they're like miniatures representing the monsters. So, or is it more of a dungeon crawler that you control your party, your band, and then it also said like look out for your rivals. So maybe it's like a competitive miniatures game where another player is assuming another party from a different faction that is also trying to fight their way through the dungeon. That actually I think would be more, I mean, obviously more on brand with like a D&D experience. You're sort of dungeon crawling, you're building a party. I could see a lot of fun things going there, like trying to mix and match like who is the best combination with who, you know, to get through this dungeon. I like that idea more because I mean, I do, even though it is competitive, it doesn't seem directly opposed. Like, it doesn't seem like you have to fight each other. I'm sure there will be some elements of PvP, but it seems like maybe you could just like fight through the dungeon and still win. Games like Warhammer stuff, I have played. I've actually I've worked in a lot of game stores where that is like a huge draw. Is like Warhammer and games like that. But it is a huge hobby to get involved in. Buying the individual fighting pieces and buying multiples of them because you're making armies, and you know you're buying like the larger siege engines, which can be very expensive. So you know that idea for a miniatures game doesn't really appeal to me personally. But if it is like a bit more of a curated experience where maybe you are, you know, making your team to compete against the other player's team to get through the dungeon first, that seems kind of cool and an interesting take. Oh, ad break. Okay. Ba-ba-da-ba, ba-ba-da-ba, ba-ba. So, yeah, I'm new to ad breaks, so I don't really know if I should talk or not talk. It's like that scene in Star Wars, like, you talk first, I talk first, who talks first? I don't know. But I guess the long and short of it is... the long and short of it is I wish they actually gave me my notification telling me that I was going to go into an ad. That would be very useful. I told it to do that. But yeah, long story short, I think if they're... Actually, I should probably just let me know when that stops. LOL. It's so hard to know if it's real or not. We just talked about is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? I don't know if I can say more without being like pinged for getting in trouble. You know, I got 3 ads on my phone and 2 on my computer. Wow, 3 and wow, that's a lot. I swear I set them to not be a lot. I tried to. I was like, I know ads are annoying, so I'm gonna like try to rein it in. But all in all, that is everything that is to say. If this is a straight up like war game with miniatures set in a D&D world, you know, it's been done. They could probably do it better. I'm not super excited about it. If it's more you are creating your own individual party and maybe competing against another person's party to get to the dungeon first. So it's more like PvE, but there's probably like some side adjacent PvP elements with the other party members. That could be more exciting. That could be more cool. And also add an element of like actual designing the dungeon to get through. That could be fun. So this is definitely a bit nebulous in terms of like how it plays and what it is. But I think could be fun. Also, another opportunity for them to sell miniatures and set pieces, which I don't personally use. But for anyone who... That's like one cool thing about having miniature games that have like tie-ins with things that already use miniatures, because then you can just buy those and use those for your other part of the hobby. So I get it. Very cool. But may not be something that I personally interact with a lot. We'll see. Slots and plugs. Throw it up for slots and plugs.
Only the harbors oppose us.
Let no creature pass.
And those who guard the keep.
I'll let it ride.
A brand new tactical skirmish miniatures game in the Dungeons and Dragons.
Tactical skirmish miniatures.
The Onslaught. Pre-order at your game store or online.
Onslaught also makes me think maybe it's like wave-based, like a wave survival, which could also be interesting. I feel like it could definitely have a better name than Onslaught. But, I mean, it depends on how it's played. If it's like a wave-based combat game, Onslaught makes a lot of sense. If it is like more of a dungeon exploration game, it'd be cool if it had a more evocative name. I remember, what was the series of like short dungeon crawls that they would put in the D&D magazines? Like Dungeon Delves, I think they were called. I would just steal that name and use that again. But I guess we don't really know how it's played. So
monsters and worthy rivals
I'm just
on a quest for treasure and glory in this exciting combat board game.
Spitballing
You can
here.
get your hands on Dungeons and Dragons Onslaught in local game stores this October.
We've traveled between worlds in our show today. And to reward you for sticking with us for the entire
Aw,
journey,
we're being
we have one more
rewarded.
intriguing thing for you.
But
One more
before we go, we
intriguing thing.
want to thank you for joining us for the first ever D&D Direct.
Everything in the world of D&D is meant to be shared amongst family, friends, and fans, which is why it was such an honor to celebrate that world with all of you today.
I completely agree, Anna. And somehow our love for the game just keeps growing deeper as we discover new products, create content, and adventure together. How amazing to see such evidence that D&D will never stop bringing new shared experiences and journeys to players. And to underscore that truth, here is one more thing.
Are they stealing the Apple headline? And one more thing? They're like taking that? I thought that was... Yeah, actually, Mochi, that's a good point. Very... Got some McKinnon-esque vibes going on. Obviously, there's a lot of flowery language talking about how great D&D is, which it is, for truth. But, hey, we have one more thing.
You all
so.
enjoy.
Let's see.
I often wonder why we fight. With all the evil forces that plague this land, the odds feel insurmountable. Our enemies are savage, cruel, and relentless. But even in knowing all this,
I will say that I do love the general... They've done this for a couple of different announcements now, the art style, which is sort of like this half-animated, like, storybook. Like, some of them are definitely, like, slightly animated stills, but very cool. This feeling that, like, the novelization of this tale is, like, coming to life. They've played with it a couple times. This is, I think, definitely the most they've skewed into, like, the purely... the very much more cinematic feel. Some of them were very storybooky. But I do like that whole idea of like the story coming to life that they've been running through, which is obviously very thematic for D&D. Love
we
that.
must still fight on. Not for victory. Not for kings. Not even for glory.
But for what?
For each other.
I was gonna say for each other. Yeah, that makes sense. Ah. Ooh, interesting. Okay. All right, I see you, D&D. How much time is left on this? It's coming out. Okay, so it's over officially. So let's go back here for a second. So we were talking. I have a friend named Dragonlance. If you do, their parents are probably either a huge nerd or it was the biggest coincidence in the history of coincidences. Cool. Very cool. So we talked a bit earlier about how there's a lot of campaign settings that 5th edition has not incorporated into the official rule sets and like canon of this edition yet. That people have been clamoring for. Obviously, they I mean, now that I think about it, they opened with Spelljammer, which everyone has been just wailing about wanting so bad. But right up there, I would say Dragonlance has been another one of them. Dragonlance is an old school campaign setting. One of the first, if I'm not mistaken, I think after Greyhawk, if I'm not mistaken, Greyhawk was the first. But D&D like lore enthusiasts are like rolling in their graves right now. Or I mean, a lot of them are still alive. I don't want you on it. Like they're just rolling. They're rolling around wherever they're laying. But yeah, Dragonlance is one of the oldest, one of the first. Actually, they released a supplement about it in their playtesting materials years ago, where they talked about how the Minotaurs of the world of Krynn are like seafaring. They're like pirates, and I loved that idea so much that I incorporated into our campaign. There's a whole there's an archipelago called the Chain of Bulls that has a capital city known as Minravus, and Minravus is home to a band of seafaring minotaurs, which maybe the party will meet in their adventure. We'll see. But a very influential campaign setting that a lot of people have been asking about for a while now. So opening with Spelljammer, closing with Dragonlance, very smart on their behalf and giving a lot of people exactly what they want. So interesting that so we have an adventure book, which makes sense. We definitely want to run adventures in Dragonlance. That's what the people want. I wonder if the all black cover is the actual art, or if it's like spoilered, like they're just using the black art until like a full art is available. It is fitting, Shadow of the Dragon Queen, to have like an all black cover would be kind of a baller move, kind of just like a boss cover to have. But then also, and battle game. Now that raises a lot of questions. Is it, a battle game like the one they just announced, Onslaught? Is it cross-compatible with Onslaught? Is it its own battle game? Its own like tactical fantasy fighting game? There have been standalone D&D board games released in the past, especially ones that center around like full-scale fantasy combat, which Dragonlance, the setting, does tailor itself to. So is it its own thing? I mean, it's called Warriors of Krynn, which, it's not labeled Onslaught by any means. So I wonder if they're going to add more to that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, maybe like something underneath, like some little subtext right above where the red line is. That's true. But yeah, interesting to have a miniatures game coming out branded with Onslaught, then having another. I mean, I guess we don't know it's a miniatures game, but if we're playing a fantasy-based tactical war game, there's probably going to be minis involved. That's like half the fun, right? It's like moving the little troops across the board. Interesting. I wonder if they will be at all cross-compatible. The Revenge of Kylo Ren. Yeah, I mean, this is very Kylo Ren, this whole... Okay. So I'm just gonna... Here, I'll just bring this back a little bit so we can get, nice and bright. So wow, that was the entirety of the very first D&D. For anyone who's like, who popped over from Candy Bear's stream, this D&D Direct, the thing that we just kind of dissected and watched and talked through, is the very first of its kind for the brand. It's the first D&D Direct. Obviously, D&D has been around for a while, but the popularity and whatnot has truly exploded over the past couple years, and so the opportunities to do direct to the fan announcements is a fairly new occurrence. So that's kind of why I wanted to stream talking through it, since it was kind of a first. And we got a lot of great stuff. So if I'm remembering correctly, we're getting 2 campaign settings, both of which have been highly, highly requested, both Dragonlance and Spelljammer. Very excited about that. I will definitely be picking up both and stealing as much as I can from it, especially Spelljammer. I could actually see myself, like, not now because I've already started, level 1 adventuring this campaign as what it is, and I wrote the world for it. But I could definitely see myself running a full-scale Spelljammer campaign in the future, 100%. So we got 2 new campaign settings, which means we got a lot of new books. We got announcements on Baldur's Gate, 2 video games actually, Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter. Obviously, I'm far more invested in the, I keep wanting to say Space Jammer. The two have the possibility of intersecting. Like, in a world where you can take a space pirate ship to different dimensions, spell jamming and space jamming, I think, can coexist in the same realm, which would be an interesting campaign setting for sure. There's already space animals. Yeah, I think it's practically writing itself at this point. 2 new video game announcements. Baldur's Gate 3, which has such big hype. I will personally be playing that, and I will be most likely streaming that in the near future when I get everything sorted out for the stream. Neverwinter, cool. Not like the most excited about it, but I'm glad that it's still a thing. Glad that it's still around. New starter kit, actually forgot about. So that's kind of like a 3rd book, a whole new starter kit with digital tools. So that's fun. I'm excited to see. I'd like to get my hands on the new starter kit. If even to see if it'd be a better... I've run Lost Mines of Phandelver, the original starting adventure, a couple times, and it is good. It is fun, and people always enjoy it. But it'd be interesting to see if this one maybe has a different experience that other people might enjoy differently. Also because it looks nautical themed with that whole that beachfront. Let's see if I can find it again. That whole beachfront with like the blue dragon on the front. Could probably easily play its way into a Spelljammer campaign. Radiant Citadel. Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, 4 books, because Radiant Citadel is a part of... Wow. Okay, actually a lot of content, now that I think about it, for the actual tabletop game. And yeah, Radiant Citadel, not only does it look gorgeous... Let's see if we can pull up some of this art. Not only does it look freaking gorgeous, but the story seems very cool, too. The sort of, like... palace that connects to different interdimensional worlds that you can have concurrent stories happening in. That's really, I think those kind of stories lend themselves really well to new DMs too. Not saying that like this adventure is like written like to be easy or whatever, but like for DMs who might be intimidated by running sequential storylines that all link to each other, like campaign to campaign to campaign, playing something like this, which feels a little bit more episodic, like, oh, we go to the Radiant Citadel, we step through a portal, we do this cool adventure, and we have our moment there, and then we come back to the Radiant Citadel to, like, hang out or, buy things, upgrade our weapons, what have you, and then step into the next portal, and then do that adventure, is a lot more manageable for DMs, I think, for newer DMs, because you can kind of compartmentalize the stories and the villains and the events. And then, once you start getting the hang of it, then you can start kind of getting more complicated with it. I mean, it would definitely be cool to have, like, a villain, like a long-term villain that, like, portal hops with you, right? Or, like, it's kind of like your foil, like, always one step ahead of you. You're chasing them through one portal to stop them, and then they escape. And, that's definitely... That could be a lot of fun. But if you don't want to, like, think about all those moving pieces, you could definitely just have their sort of own adventures in their own spaces. So, yeah, now that I think about it, 4 written content books, which will give just a huge amount to new players. 2 video game properties. I just saw something that I thought was interesting when I was scanning through here. A ton of miniatures-based stuff. We have just straight-up new... minis that play into Spelljammer with the slots and the plugs, as we've been calling them. I'm trying to see if I could like find exactly where those miniatures showed up. That's like the Thrykeen. Whatever. We all know they were there. Oh, here they are. No, they're not. I lied. Whatever. There's miniatures. And then there's like a mini fighting game with Onslaught and possibly another miniature game with the Dragonlance Warriors of Krynn. So possibly 3 other D&D adjacent board game properties, or minis properties, which is pretty nuts. The movie, which gave us nothing. We know nothing about this movie. The movie's probably the thing that I'm like least excited about, to be honest, just because I have low expectations. I know the past D&D movies have not been great, but still cool that it's a thing. And I'd like it to be fun and interesting, and I'd like it to be maybe a new entry point for new players. You know, they see a kick-ass D&D movie and they're like, oh, maybe I want to give this D&D thing a try. New digital tools, new monsters, which we kind of talked about with the new books, is fun. I mean, having more digital tools is great if that's your bag. And the new tools for people running physical games, actual live play on a board and a grid, having these sort of plastic pogs with the stickers to represent the different monsters. Good, great, Tommy. Yeah, we've decided Tommy Wiseau is in the new D&D movie, so you know it's gonna be good. These are actually, once again, something I will probably not use because I do not run games in a physical. I run them in a physical environment sometimes, but I don't run them with physical tools. I don't use maps. I don't use minis. I don't use grids. But for people who are, I think this is a great alternative to actual minis. I'm sure it'll be more cost effective. I like that they're reusable. And the same thing with the grids and the terrain. That just gives you so much more space and room to create various scenarios without like having to commit yourself to terrain pieces or drawing it all on a map by hand. Very cool tools if you're planning on running the game that way. So excited to see that. And is there anything else I'm forgetting? Oh, and the new show. I mean, new shows are cool. I mean, I should know. I'm running one. Look at this. Look at this direct competition. Absolutely not. These guys they're officially sponsored by D&D, right? So they're like not in our league at all. But I mean, I like that new shows are happening because that means there's just no short want for D&D content, which is what we are producing. I gotta be honest, despite the fact that I make D&D content and I'm running a D&D stream, I don't really watch or listen to a lot independently. I have watched, of course, Critical Role in the past. It's kind of what started getting the wheels turning for me to try and do my own. But I don't really keep up with a lot of the current stuff that's happening. This seems more like a stream that I might be interested in, just because it's going to expose people to the brand new content from Spelljammer, which, as we discussed, is going to be a bigger departure from like standard D&D settings. So seeing it happen in real time with like, you know, talented players and presumably actors will be great. I was on a tangent there, and I had another thing to say, and it totally left me. Yeah, it'd be cool for people to see Spelljammer because it's like so far and away from the regular D&D crowd. I don't know. I don't know what that idea was. It's gone. I never had it. Pretend I didn't say anything. It'd be very easy for you to pretend that I didn't have a good idea. Celery, peanut butter, yes, all of that is here. But I was gonna say, this seems like a show that I'd be interested in because I know a lot of people really love the D&D streams and podcasts that are more like comedy focused. And I think that there's no wrong way to play, and I totally get the appeal of those, to just like kick back and like crack jokes with your friends in like that fantasy world where anything can happen. But it's not exactly my favorite brand. I do like the worlds to feel somewhat realized and the characters to be, you know, characters and not caricatures and all that stuff. Yeah, it did work. You actually did summon the thought back into my brain via celery and peanut butter, so thank you. Where it seems like this stream, especially with like this art style and the commitment to realizing these like Spelljammer characters, feels like it's what is that? Yeah, these like characters feels like it's definitely not going to take like a purely comedic approach. There's going to be some like world building and, you know, trying to actually relay the stories of these characters to the audience, which is my favorite type of game, and the game that I'm running or hoping or planning to run on my stream. So yeah, a lot of content. I gotta say, I'm very excited about the book stuff. Knowing that we have 4 different books to crack through is just gonna give DMs so. And there's still books I don't have from this edition that I'm backed up on that I gotta buy. But Spelljammer and Radiant Citadel are definitely they're going on my to buy list like ASAP, because that is just too cool of a world to not want to run adventures in on a long enough timeline. And I gotta say, like, for a first D&D Direct, this was cool. This was fun. The hosts are like, the hosts are hosts. Like, they gotta say like their corny lines and be cute and like, introduce the next stuff. But I mean, I think for what they're trying to do here and appeal to the audience and give them new announcements in this format, I think they did a really good job. It felt very like IGN-y or like, like big Gamescom kind of game show kind of thing, which I never thought would be where D&D is. Like, holy crap. When I think to myself, look at this guy, by the way. we'll keep the screen on him. Playing D&D is like no, actually, let's keep the screen on Flapjack. Whoever or whatever Flapjack is, my life for Flapjack, my kingdom for Flapjack. I believe that's a flump. I believe my kingdom belongs to Flapjack, the flump captain here. I could never imagine a world where D&D as a brand was mass broadcasting new events and like product lines to their audience. Like, it just goes to show the reach and the impact that the game has, which is great. Being that I have been such a fan and such a vocal proponent for so many years, and tried to conscript so many people into the hobby, because I think it is such a wonderful tool for self-expression and storytelling and spending quality time with people that you really like, and a world all your own, and sort of crafting those shared memories and those shared stories. We talk about, I think what started to the mainstream, this coolest thing. Yeah, that's true. Stranger Things did really put D&D into the limelight in a way that it obviously didn't have before. I would, at least in terms of the online space, obviously Critical Role, exploded the hobby in a big way. But Stranger Things made it, because people who were watching Critical Role were either already like game people or like stream YouTube people who were like, finding it. So it was like still new, but like introducing it to a similar crowd or like a crowd of similar interest. But Stranger Things, we got people who growing up was never a cool and D&D nerd. I can never. Stranger Things did give it a sort of appeal to a whole new wide swath of people who might otherwise not interact with it because it was in that show format. So, excuse me. It's just so cool to see how it's grown. Growing up, it was never cool to be a D&D nerd. I agree. I mean, I thought it was cool, but I definitely caught my fair share of flack for it. And still now you get people who don't understand it, and they're like, oh, D&D. But that just goes to show that they're just not your people, at least for now. Maybe they'll change their minds once we see how cool it is. But nobody got time to be judged for the things they like. I don't judge people for things they like. Like we said earlier, don't yuck anybody's yum. Let them live. Let me live in my fantasy world with Captain Flapjack, the sexy flump captain. That's what I want to do. But yeah, I'm happy they did this. It's very cool that this is going to be a regular part of their rollouts now. I imagine for future product launches. It's better now with the flexibility of a lot of DMs. Yes, that's true too. I think that's what books like the Radiant Citadel are trying to address, because for so long, D&D, being that its origins was like, old school wargaming, was like very much a white boys club. And I say that being a white boy, but that's all the people who were involved. And having new perspectives, new life experiences, being being more actively portrayed in the hobby and opportunities given to other people and walks of life in the hobby, and different styles of play. You know, different, like the way that you're gonna see me play the stream, which is like heavily narrative. I believe heavily narrative focused in like improv is. And you know, sometimes there's combat, but sometimes it's just everybody talking for like hours. It's going to be very different than a lot of like combat heavy tactical, you know, simulationist kind of games. And they're all valid. And I stand by the fact that no matter how you want to have fun, no matter how you want to play, it's like 100% valid as long as like that is how you and your friend group communicates storytelling together, or not even storytelling, just communicates having a good time, right? Like if your idea of fun is just sitting around together in a circle and kicking down doors and slaying monsters with dice rolls over and over until you get too tired to do so, as long as you all are there for the same purpose and you're having a good time, that's what it's all about. Whether or not like another table might enjoy that. So yeah, I think the types of people who are able to have a greater amount of exposure to the hobby and become dungeon masters and play games in different ways has really just expanded it. And these directs are a direct cause of that. Slots and plugs for Flap. Oh God, that poor Flumph. Slots and plugs for that Flumph. There's so many words that just sound like they're made up when you say them together. Oh, slots and plugs for Flapjack the Flumph. It just sounds like like a made-up language. Half of it is, I guess, kind of. But I think with that, I think I've said about all I can say about this direct, other than that I enjoyed it. For those of you who showed up from the raid, thank you so much. I'm going to plug us one more time. We are level 1 adventuring every Wednesday. Join us for live D&D campaigns. We are very early on in adventure. The characters are still level 1. There are only 3 adventures in, so if you join now, you'll still be along for a very long ride, and you won't have that much to catch up on. You can join the Discord. I write a campaign journal that chronicles all of the previous events from the previous adventures if you don't want to watch the full videos, though I hope you do. And plus that will eventually become, the Discord will eventually be a play-by-post place. So if you want to play D&D play-by-post, that is what it's evolving to eventually be on a long enough timeline. Mondays, I do Dungeon Master Talks about game design and philosophy. I'll have my friend Joe joining me on those soon, where we're going to like answer questions from them and like co-design some things, which will be fun. And as I mentioned before, I will start streaming the pre-release of Baldur's Gate 3 before it actually releases in 2023, which is what they just told us. Soon, once I get like the internet hard confirmed for the space, because from our last stream we learned that since we've had some people move and our internet change, it needs some more reinforcing factors to make sure the stream is stable 100%. But yes, please join us for all of that. It's been such an amazing journey. I mean, I've only been doing this for like 2 weeks, and just the amount of people who have been involved and talked with us, and I mean, we already made affiliate. That's crazy to me. The amount of growth and like interaction we're having with people about this hobby that I've grown up loving is so incredible, and I just hope it grows from here. So yeah, that was the first D&D Direct. I am Wolf Scott. I hope all of you had a wonderful time, and I will be uploading to YouTube pretty much as soon as this ends, so you can catch it there as well. And I hope to see you for our next either impromptu random stream or on our regularly scheduled programming. Y'all stay safe. Keep on adventuring. Much love. Adios. Goodbye. I'll run the outro because I have a fun video outro.